Melbourne is often referred to as the nation's sporting capital, but today teams of volunteers will hit the streets and visit the city's live music venues. They'll record who's playing, who's working and who's there to see the gigs. The information will provide a valuable snapshot of the economic and cultural social impact of Melbourne's live music scene. Patrick Donovan is the CEO of Music Victoria and he joins us now. Patrick, welcome to the program. What is the point of this exercise?
Well, as I say, data is king. We all go out to see a lot of music in Melbourne, but they're often in small, medium-sized venues and people are just peeling off the streets, and you never see people en masse going to see our amazing live music scene. So tonight we send all these students out and we actually capture the number of venues, the economic spend, and we interview the patrons and also the venue owners about what some of the issues are. We get some really important data, and that's really important to show the government that is a very valuable asset worth investing in, and also for the industry from all around the world to come and invest in it as well.
Is there a feeling that it's not invested in as much as it should be?
Well, 4 years ago we thought that. So we did the first live music census in 2012, and we got these amazing figures: 465 venues in Melbourne, another 200 in regional Victoria, 90,000 gigs a year, and so that really helped us work with lobby the government and to invest $25 million in music. So the government certainly has been listening, and we're working closely with them, and now we're taking another snapshot so we can actually measure how that investment's been working. So certainly the government is listening now, but part of that and a number of other outcomes came from having those statistics 5 years ago.
As you said, that collection of data happened in 2012. What did you find about who was working, who was playing, how long they were there for?
Yeah, we found there was about $1 billion being spent. So all of the auxiliary industries, merchandise and transport and food and accommodation, especially people travelling for music. A lot of tours only come to Melbourne or Sydney, so you get a lot of people from New Zealand and around the country touring. We also sort of found out about trends, when fans would rather see music. There's a bit of a trend towards, certainly we want more all ages gigs. Certain demographics want to see music earlier on in the night. And we'll be asking a lot of questions to gauge the climate of the audience tonight as well. Particularly safety is a really important issue in venues at the moment. Safe spaces, do people feel safe there? Do women feel comfortable to be able to report an incident or something like that? We're also looking at capacities of these venues, and which affects building code exemptions that we'll be lobbying for. So we'll be finding out a lot of issues for musicians and the audience to make sure that we can continue to work on audience development and make it as attractive as possible to get more people to see shows.
What about how these shows are marketed? I mean, how much of these attendances are incidental or very niche?
We're finding that is getting more and more niche. So we have so many more different styles of music now. And people sort of seem to behave in tribes and go along and see their favourite bands, their style of music. And the marketing, obviously, it's pretty much done between the fans and through the artists and the fans through social media now. So there's very direct marketing, and artists know how to connect directly to the fans, which makes it a lot easier to attract them to your shows. So there's a lot of trends, and it's really important to do it 5 years later to see if things are improving here. Live music is sort of struggling around the world a bit. I've just been to a conference in Memphis, and everyone's looking towards Victoria to learn how we've invested in music and how we're protecting our venues. So we're hoping that the number of venues has grown in the last 5 years, but even if it's stagnant, that's going to be a real positive. And we've got actually a world music convention called the Music Cities Convention coming to Melbourne in April to actually learn about how many venues and why we have such a strong live music scene. So people are sort of keen to really sort of share the methodology of a census and look into some of the other planning laws and some of the other support that the government's been providing and to our industry.
What are some of those key challenges? You mentioned that similar cities around the world are experiencing the same sorts of things, and even here in Brisbane and in Sydney, the sorts of issues around safety and planning have meant that the nightlife in the central parts of those cities has been hampered because of those issues.
Yeah. All of the cities around the world are facing the same challenges. Gentrification's the big one. So, shoddy apartments are going up on every corner, and then neighbours are complaining about the music. So we lobbied the government 5 years ago to bring in the agent of change principle, which means every time a developer applies for a planning permit, if there's a venue within 50 metres, then the developer has to pay for all of the attenuation. So that's a world first, where we're advising other cities around the world, like London, on how they can bring that in. Then there's a safety issue. Dark, crowded spaces, women going to venues and feeling safe there, and that's really important. So we're working with the government on a sexual harassment and sexual assault trial pilot program, training 9 venues over the next 12 months as to how to limit and prohibit these any incidences and make women feel safer, and to have very clear lines of what's acceptable and what's not. So there's a lot of issues that are very common around the world, and we've had very supportive councils and government in Victoria that we've been working with, and the rest of the world are coming out for this conference next April to learn about how we've got 460 venues, because that's twice as many as London, and we're obviously doing something right here. But obviously having passionate fans, strong ecosystem, good community radio and media as well. There are a whole bunch of things that come into it. I mean, people say Melbourne's got more bands because, we don't have surf beaches within a couple of kilometres, or, there's something in the water, I'm not sure, but it's really the venues and the supporting ecosystem which is encouraging musicians from all around the country to actually move to Melbourne.
Patrick Donovan from Music Victoria. I have a feeling a lot of people will be interested with the data you end up collecting. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks a lot.